All right. Hi, everybody. Hi. How's it going? So, my name's Kevin. I'm a product manager at Shopify. And unlike the other talks you got from product managers, I'm not going to be releasing a new product or announcing a new feature today. Instead, I get to talk about something that I'm really passionate about, and that's design. Exceptional e-commerce design, to be specific. We're going to talk about what it looks like. We're going to talk about why it's important. And we're going to talk about the role that you'll inevitably play in all of this. So before we dig too deep into it, I'll tell you a little bit about me. And hey, it's me. I started at Shopify about 3.5 years ago on what was called the Design Guru team. And before that, I was a graphic designer. And I primarily worked on newspapers and magazines, and I did page layout. And I was pretty good at it, and I really liked it. But as I did it more and more, there was something that really bothered me about what I did. And that's that I was creating a lot of garbage. Now, that's not to say that my designs were garbage. Obviously, they were phenomenal, right? But it was the nature of the medium, right? People read the magazine, or they looked at the ad or the newspaper, and then they threw it out. And over time, I kind of accepted this. It was just like part of my profession. And I came to terms with that. And then one day, I had a realization. It was actually pretty life-changing. It seems kind of trivial, but it was really important. That realization was that I didn't have a portfolio website. So I set out to build one, because I thought all good designers need to have a portfolio website. And it was probably really bad, but it was a way for me to learn about making things on the internet, and specifically for WordPress. So there was this one thing that I really liked about WordPress, and that's the concept of a theme. It was my first introduction to this concept. But to me, it was really magical that I could change everything about the way that my site looks simply by uploading a new file. And I really took a liking to that. So I made more and more WordPress themes. And I learned a lot about WordPress. Shopify had been on my radar for a little while. And I heard about a team that helped Shopify's merchants by making customizations to their themes. By this point, I really liked themes. So I started learning about Shopify themes. And coming from the world of WordPress, where PHP is a thing, Shopify was like crazy. And I know it's a little bit off topic, but it's pretty magical to be able to code in a language that's like straight up plain English. Anyways, after learning more about Shopify and Shopify themes, I kind of wanted to take my understanding to the next level. And I applied for that design guru position. And luckily enough, I got it. But when I started at Shopify, doing the design guru role, shit got real. And I had this realization that what I was building on WordPress was trivial in comparison to Shopify. Like, making a WordPress blog was, in comparison, like nothing compared to making a Shopify store. Because there was this whole other aspect that I hadn't really explored in good detail, and that was the store part. So I dug deep into themes. Became really, really interested in understanding what constitutes good e-commerce design. And I really took a liking to the theme store and our theme store design reviews. So partners submit theme designs to us, and we critique them, and we inevitably judge whether or not they're the right fit for our Shopify theme store. I really, really like this. So I got really involved with it. And I've reviewed probably every theme design submission over the past 3 years. And we get 1 to 2 submissions per day. So I've reviewed probably upwards of 600 Shopify themes. And when we do these reviews, it's not just me. We have an entire team of people that are devoted to having these conversations. Everybody from designers to front-end developers to support specialists. They all weigh in these conversations. But it's in having those conversations that I've gained this understanding of good e-commerce design. And today, I'm going to share that with you. But before we do that, let's take a little step in our Wayback Machine, and we'll go back to the fledgling beginnings of the interweb. Now, way back when, if you built or maintained something on the internet, you were a webmaster. You're a master of the web, and it sounds pretty badass. I kind of really like that term. But that's when the internet was in its infancy, and it started to evolve. And when things evolve, they get more complex. And with that complexity, we needed roles like back-end developer and front-end developer, content strategist, and then web designer. Now, I take a little bit of issue with the term web designer, because to me, it still relates back to when the internet was young, when we were making static pages. And we're not doing that now. We're making much more, making interactions and you know, the way people consume these web pages. We're thinking about that a lot more. So I think that this is a web designer. Okay, I like spiders. Not a lot of people do, but I really do. But we're not that. We are user experience designers. We're designing experiences. So there's one other question that I think we should probably dig into before we get to this whole exceptional e-commerce design thing. And that's like, what is theme, right? If you wanted to unpack it, I guess you could say at its very basic level that a theme is a bunch of elements and colors and typography laid out in a page. And if you wanted to go a little bit deeper into it, you could probably say that a theme is a bunch of code and assets and files packaged up into a zip folder. And you wouldn't be wrong to say that. If you want to go one step deeper, you could probably say that a theme is that thing that takes all that information inside of Shopify and transforms it into an online store. And again, you're not wrong in saying these things. But when we talk about design, what are we really getting at? Because design is more than just aesthetics and code. It's about interactions. It's about content and information and approachability. And essentially, I would argue that themes are experiences. And it's our duty as designers to understand the merchants that we work with and deliver the right storefront experiences that fit their needs. And this is nothing trivial. So we craft experiences. We're UX designers. And as such, we probably need a solid understanding of what good UX looks like and where it's appropriate. So for instance, I would argue that this is good UX design. This is KISS. It's clean, and it's simple, and it's minimal, and it's pretty stark, actually. But it's really good UX design. But on the other hand, this is also good UX design. And it's not any of the things that I mentioned about KISS. But it's very evident that ShopGene's designer understands the audience and built the appropriate website. Now, I might not understand it because I'm not a 21-year-old girl, but that doesn't matter because somebody is. So a couple little examples of good UX design. We should probably dig into some bad design. Now, I'm going to apologize right now just in case somebody sitting in this room is responsible for this, but I think it's the epitome of bad experience. So what's going to happen is I'm going to play a little video and just kind of do a play-by-play commentary on what was going through my head the first time I visited this website. So we've all seen this page before. This is the pick your country page. Big websites have it. I'm Canadian, so we'll pick Canada. And what do we got? Oh, we have a French website. That's great. What happened here? Let's go back and see what's going on. Hey, it looks like they changed the link on Hover. Thank you for that. They're a fashion brand, right? So we should probably look at a little bit of fashion. All the watches look nice, too. Oh, this doesn't look like anything I saw on the other page. Will collections have watches in them? Let's see. No, those are, oh, OK, that's the releases. Let's go back to the home page. And that's not the home page that I saw. What about news? Maybe they have some news about watches. This is an entirely new navigation, entirely new website, actually. Can we get back to that first one? Because like right now, I really just want to look at watches. Oh, their logo? Maybe we click on that. And nope, top of the page. All right. Oh, they opened a new tab for me. Thank you. That's great. OK. let's look at products. Watches are products. And what do you got? Handbags, we got shoes, we got jewelry, no watches. OK, back to Chanel.com. Let's see what happens. OK, this kind of looks like what I saw the first time. Watches, here we go. And another new design with another new navigation pattern. And this is, can I go back to the home page, see what else is going on with this? Another new tab, that's great. Let's check out skincare. Maybe skincare will be better. Another new design with another new navigate. Wow, big navigation. OK, like back to the home page. Nope, that didn't do it. Another new tab. Thank you, Chanel. OK, I'm really frustrated. Let's just stop. So what went wrong? Well, there was no consistency. It's the major thing. That's what we all noticed. There was absolutely no consistency with the interactions. Every page that we visited, we had to learn a new interaction and a new pattern. And really, the visual style, there was no consistency there either. Which leaves me with the impression that everything feels scattered and confused. And if I think that about their website, I'm going to think that Chanel is also scattered and confused. This isn't anything that we want for our merchants. Because a website is basically the visual embodiment of a brand, right? So if the website's scattered and confused, the brand is scattered and confused. It's as simple as that. So maybe Chanel can get away with this, because they've been around longer than the internet has been a thing. But that's not the case for the merchants that we work with. So let's move on, because something bad happened there. And I think it comes down to this. It comes down to research. Good UX requires research. That's not revolutionary. Remember Shopgene? There's a reason that it looks the way it does. And there's a reason that Kith looks the way it does. So at Shopify, when we build a new product, we don't build it because we think people are going to use it. No, we build it because we know that it solves key problems that our merchants or their customers face. And how do we know that they face these problems? Well, we talk to them, right? We gather data. We do our research. And we need to extend that as designers to how we approach the websites that we build for our merchants. We need a deep understanding of them, of where they've been, of what they've tried, what's failed in the past, what's succeeded. We need to understand their company. We need to understand their customers. We need to understand the customers that they might not have but want. We need to understand the struggles that they've encountered. So we should probably do our research. We should ask these questions when we're talking to merchants in that initial interview. OK, so we did the whole bad UX. We did the research thing. Let's actually get to the exceptional e-commerce design, the title of the talk. We're going to start off with Stickwood. So Stickwood sells what I guess you could call peel and stick wooden wallpaper. It's actually reclaimed wooden planking. I think it's pretty freaking cool. But it's also super unique. There's nothing else like it on the market. So with that in mind, they face some pretty unique challenges when trying to sell their stuff on the internet. So the first thing we're going to look at is their collection page. And when you start scrolling down on their collection page, what you notice is it doesn't follow that familiar grid pattern that we're used to seeing. Instead, we have these nice wide bands of beautiful wood. We have a lot of detail here, and we're really able to consume the products in a meaningful way. Now, the bands also mimic the products themselves, which makes everything feel unified and purposeful. The other thing that I really like about Stickwood's website is their comparison feature. So these are highly visual products. We're going to put them on our walls. We probably want to know what they really look like, one against the other, because it's all about the subtleties, right? So what they've done is they've implemented this little comparison feature. And you can scroll around and look at the products and start to compare the ones that you like. And what happens is they populate this simple light box. And when we go to this light box, now we see massive pictures using a tool that everybody's already familiar with. They didn't reinvent the wheel, but they found a way to repurpose the light box in a very meaningful way. So we'll move on now to their product page. And we have this massive, beautiful image. And again, the layout mimics the collection page with those bands of wood. And when we start to scroll down, we can see the specs, and we can see the description and some examples of it in the wild. When we scroll back up, that picture that we saw before has been replaced with dynamic content, which is really cool to me because I don't need to click on anything to see the back of the product. I don't really need to think about exploring the product at all. I can just do it without any sort of thought. And all this without sacrificing any page load time, because that video is only loaded after the rest of the page content. Up until that point, we had this nice image that made everything seem seamless. So this brings me to a really important point. And that's speed is king. So when it comes to e-commerce, it doesn't matter how fancy the page looks or how well structured the content is. If the site takes a long time to load, it's not going to convert. It's as simple as that. People don't want to wait to give away their money. But there's another takeaway from Stickwood, and that's design for simplicity. So all the features are great, but there's one thing that's better than anything else, and that's that every feature serves a purpose. Even the little square footage calculator they have on their product page. Now, I'm not a mathematician, and I can't calculate square footage. I'm sure most of you can, but I am able to measure a wall and input a couple numbers into some text fields. But they solved a problem. So we need to remember that every feature that we include in our designs has to solve a problem. And if it doesn't, it's just going to add cognitive overhead to the end user. OK, onward. So full disclosure, this next store is not a Shopify store. And I'd imagine that a lot of people in the room probably haven't familiarized themselves with the glory that is Canadian Tire. But if I try to explain it, I guess I would say that it's like a Canadian Walmart, but without the groceries and the clothes. But the point is that when you go to Canadian Tire, you know what you want. You go there, you get your cart, you go to the aisle, you pick up the thing, you put it in the cart, you go to the cash, you pay for it, and then you GTFO. And Canadian Tire realizes this, and they've extended that to their online shopping experience. So let's see what happens when we visit their homepage. Canadian Tire, cool, and page loads. Now, when the page loads, the search input is already focused. All I have to do is start typing. That's really cool, because it mimics the way that I would shop for something in their retail space. Basically, Canadian Tire is taking the time to understand how people approach their physical store, and they've extended that same mindset to their online store. Now people don't need to learn a new interaction or a new way of thinking when they go to shop for something in a store that they've already been to. I think that's really cool. Now, this is going to lead me to another point, and that's that we need to understand the customer's expectations and design our features accordingly. Canadian Tire is a perfect example of this. What they've done is they've taken the time to understand things. They've built them out in a very meaningful way. Because if we didn't have that search input, then shopping on their store would be a lot different and a lot more frustrating. Even if that search input was hidden behind a link or an icon, it would be a lot more frustrating. So that's not to say that this is appropriate for every single shop. This is Great George, and it's a product that was launched after an ultra-successful Kickstarter campaign. I actually bought one of the watches myself. I was hoping it would be here by now, but I think it's in the mail. Should have it at the end of the month. Point is that Great George is simple, and they sell one product. There's no search feature. There's no complicated navigation. There's no collection filtering. And by removing these features, they ensure that whoever visits their store is forced to interact with the content that really matters, and that's their one product. Remember that the less a user has to think about the thing that they're interacting with, the less likely they'll be to get confused and frustrated, which is never a good thing when they do get confused and frustrated. So since Great George was able to simplify their store down to the absolute necessities, they were able to focus on the content, the thing that really matters. So we're going to go now to their collection page. And there's something really subtle going on right here, and I'm going to give you a second to spot what it is. Anyone? Anyone? Yell it out? No? The watches are telling the correct time. So I know it's not the correct time right now because this is a pre-recorded video, but if you go to the website, you'll see that it's actually doing the thing, and it's really cool. So it's basically like a line of JavaScript and some CSS animations to turn the watch hands. But by doing that, they brought the product to life. And now it doesn't feel like I'm shopping for a picture of a watch. Now it feels like I'm actually shopping for a watch. I think that's really, really cool. But it solves a really, really key problem that we all face. And that's that we need to design for trust. Essentially, the problem is we need to make customers feel comfortable buying something online that they would normally have to go to a store to do. And it's a problem that's kind of unique to what we do as UX designers, and it's a pretty big challenge. You know, we have a lot of limitations, like the device that they use and the brand that we're working with and the products that they sell. But it can be overcome if we think about the right experiences. And on that note, we should probably recognize that a lot of our merchants don't actually have a physical retail space. Some do, and that's like wicked cool. But for everybody else, their website or their online store is their only method of representing themselves fully and in their own context. So this is Polar Stuff in Portland, Oregon, and they have a beautiful flagship. And when you walk in, you really get the sense of like, okay, cool, this is outdoor gear, and I get that. It's awesome. They've done a really good job of extending that to their online store. But what about the merchants that don't have a physical retail space? For them, their online store is their flagship. They may sell using the buy button, or our Pinterest channel, or on Facebook, but their online store is really the one place where they get to represent themselves fully. So why is all of this important? Because like I said before, it's the visual embodiment of a brand. It's the place where merchants build trust and drive sales and inevitably success. And for a lot of merchants, the success of their online store is going to determine whether or not they're able to open that brick and mortar flagship. So the work that we do is pretty impactful. Now, where do you fit in? So essentially, the people in this room are the experts responsible for designing a massive part of so many companies, and I would actually argue it's one of, if not the most important part. So I'm going to leave you with 3 things that I always keep in mind when I review a theme design. And that's deliver the right experience for each store. Approach every store as a new problem. Don't reuse old designs because it's easy. Each merchant that you work with is unique, and they have unique needs. And it's our job to understand those needs and deliver the right shopping experiences that fit them and their customers. Number 2 is optimize for successful purchases. So only design features that will actually aid the buying experience, keep things really light and simple, and remove all the cognitive overhead from interacting with that store. So remember that adding features adds complexity. And unless that feature is solving a problem, it's only going to contribute to frustration. Number 3 is design for trust and make people confident to buy stuff online that they would usually feel like they have to go to a store to do. Our designs need to build trust, and we need to keep this in mind at all times. Now, sorry, that was number 3. But if we can keep all these things in mind, then I actually think we'll see a huge rise in the quality of e-commerce. Because Shopify is giving you the tools that you need to empower entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. And it's up to you to use those tools to create the right and absolute best commerce experiences on the internet. So, in reality, the people in this room are the experts, like literally the experts, responsible for shaping the future of online shopping. Shopify is going to lead the way. Actually, we already are leading the way in commerce. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave the future of the online store in your very capable hands. Thanks. So apparently I talked much quicker than I usually do. We've got a few minutes. If there are any questions, feel free to put up your hand and ask away. Over here.
Yeah, so this question is regarding more or less accessibility through design.
Sure.
As accessibility becomes more of a requirement as we progress down the road, do you see that really affecting the overall decision-making process when people provide new design mock-ups?
That's a really good question. So it's hard to get a sense of every accessibility feature when you're reviewing, say, an InVision document. But there are things that we do take into account that we can see visually, like the placement of elements that affect each other. If they're spread out, we know that people with low vision aren't going to be able to necessarily associate those two things. So we do keep those design-driven decisions in mind. And when we approach the theme from a technical aspect is when we dig into kind of the more core dev alley type stuff that we would encounter. But yeah, it definitely is something that we look at. And increasingly more important, and people are getting more and more aware of its importance. So, yeah. Cool. Anyone else? It's kind of hard to see because of these lights, but no? Oh, back here? Sweet.
How often do you accept a new theme into the theme store?
As often as we get something that solves a problem or fills a gap. So it's not like we have any set limit. It's not like we say that we're going to have X amount of themes and cut it off at that. What we look for is somebody addressing a problem that nobody else has addressed yet, or a type of merchant that nobody else has addressed yet. And when we see that, along with strong design, is when we allow a new theme in the theme store. Does that answer your question? Cool. Anyone else? Oh, over here.
Hi, so I'm working with Shopify Plus a little more and customizing checkouts. And I just wanted to know if a dev store will ever allow us to really work on a checkout and get that checkout file before going live, right?
Yeah. So admittedly, I'm not the best person to answer this question, but on a higher level, I can say that the checkout is the secure area of Shopify. And that does bring with it some limitations as far as what we're able to do and what we're able to surface to our developer community and our merchants. But that's about as much as I know. So if you want to catch me afterwards, I'd be totally willing to hook you up with the right people.
Examples maybe of checkouts now. I don't know if you have some examples of custom checkout designs that are getting a little more popular.
I actually don't. My focus is primarily not on checkout conversion. That's like a specialized practice in and of itself. But I'm totally willing to hook you up with the right people to answer that. Any other questions? No? Yes? Over there? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it seems like web design has changed a lot in the last 5 years. I mean, the graphic image is bigger, scrolling's okay now. Where do you see kind of the next new features in web design?
That's a great question. So I see a focus on mobile. And I know we've kind of been throwing a lot of mobile talk around, but web design is changing. The web itself is shifting and kind of not the thing that we experience in desktops. There's a whole other aspect to it. So when I say mobile, I'm not necessarily just talking about the mobile theme. It's application design. It's making things feel native and intuitive to the device that somebody is already used to using. And I think that's a trend that we're going to see a lot more. And it's actually something that I'm really interested in exploring. But I don't think that web design trends are necessarily as aesthetic-driven as they once were. They're a lot more about how people consume this content. And that in and of itself is probably going to be the future of what we see as far as web trends. Is that cool? Sweet. Any other questions? Oh, over here. Sweet.
What sort of websites or resources do you check out for inspiration or design ideas?
Yeah. Oh man. So I'm a huge fan of like the beautiful websites, or sorry, beautiful stores. Link that was shown yesterday. I think everybody should check that out. Beyond that, it's like mostly reading things, even from like Nielsen reports on how people approach shopping for things online. There's some really, really good information there. As far as the design side goes, big fan of Smashing Magazine and kind of like your standard toolkit of online reading that we're probably all familiar with. But I would definitely say if you want to dig into like the meaty stuff, those Nielsen reports are some amazing ones about how people approach shopping for things. And that's where I've got a lot of good inspiration. Over there?
Hey, we saw some really interesting new tools for theme development that are going to be rolled out with Shopify. Do you have any sort of timeline as to when those are going to come out, when we might be able to start using them?
Yeah. Essentially, no. And the reason I say is just because I'm not comfortable making any sort of promises. What we want to release is the right thing and not something just very quickly.
This fall?
Yeah, I'm not going to give any sort of specific timeline, but yeah, if you want to talk later about like where the direction that we're going and what we're going to release, I'd be more than happy to have that discussion. I can't make any promises at this point as to a specific time frame. Cool. Any? Sweet. Maybe that's it. I can't really see too well, so. Oh, over here. Oh, no. You good? Oh, you got one? Sweet.
Thank you. You kind of touched on this previously with another question, but do you anticipate themes down the road being more focused on multi-purpose, traditional e-com, and maybe niching out to a specific feature? For example, like a lot of people I come across really want to push more on Shopify blogs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate a really well-designed Shopify blog that's focused compared to a well-designed multi-purpose theme? Maybe the blog might have a bit more of an advantage during the theme approval process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, do you really see more niched out themes being more popular down the road?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the directions that we are taking our theme store with. And the thing is, you've probably seen, actually, if you visited the theme store as of late, there are more niche themes. The whole concept of shopping experiences is something that I'm very passionate about. And I think having niche themes that really serve a specific purpose and function is where e-commerce needs to go. So, like, in short, yes, that is essentially exactly what I'm getting at, is we really need to think about, unique needs that our merchants are facing and design themes appropriately. So I think that you're right on point. This is so hard to see. Anything else? All right, I think we're good. Thanks, guys.